Hey guys, it's WLG, and we are not live at E3. That is where the fancy theme music kicks in. It's like do 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 do.
That is not the theme music.
It is now. It's the normal people are here with an addition of Sada, Shadow Train, who finally decided to join us after a 28.5-week hiatus.
Yay!
How many weeks is like a woman pregnant? Like 9 months. What would it be like? 9 times 4. That's like 36.
Roughly, yeah,
6 weeks.
So if you had waited another 8 weeks, then you'd have been like a newborn.
Baby.
You would have been pregnant.
You would have birthed you.
Yeah, you'd have been a newborn. Yeah, we'd have named you. we'd have named you Sat.
Sat
Fresh
black.
off the umbilical cord.
I'm not cutting an umbilical cord.
No.
I'll
We'll have Moonlight bite it.
Yeah, you'll just put it in a Wendy's wrapper and then confuse me.
They'll sell it at Chitlins.
When they start selling chitlins.
What the fuck? Put it in a fajita, it'll be alright.
Oh, flatbread.
Flatbread.
Flatbread chitlins. Well, you can see the kind of night it's going to be tonight.
Right off the bat.
So yeah, there's so much news that's happened this week due to E3, of course, that we're not going to be able to fit it all in. So,
Holy crap.
is crap really holy? Did Jesus crap?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
That's a legitimate question.
I'm pretty
Jesus
sure. I
takes
mean,
dumps.
Well, he never did during the whole Bible.
They never mention anything in the Bible about any type of holy excrement whatsoever. Okay, we're going to move on before we alienate another demographic. Last week we alienated what? The gays?
We didn't alienate. I was just saying homo.
No, it
fun
wasn't
shit.
we. It was Vicious.
Yeah, vicious.
It wasn't.
But
vicious.
sadly, no, because we have to say we, because he is one of us, and we is one of him, and we is all is one of is us.
We is also a console.
It is. Until next year when it's a Wii U.
Wii U.
How is it that they name it we and then they say you after?
Maybe
like,
we're going
us
to
and
university
you at the same
now.
time?
I don't know, but they
Maybe
kind of
you grown up.
University where they
Maybe we're grown up.
Shit.
Well, the Miiverse or whatever it was called. What was it? The
Miiverse, yeah.
Miiverse.
Miiverse, yeah.
That actually
The
seemed pretty
Lameverse.
legit. No. When you think about it, though, you can do like video chat like during game and stuff. I mean, it actually seems like Nintendo's trying to step up their online game, and I respect them for that. Now,
No, if you were able to do like online chat with using a little camera and stuff like that, meanwhile you're playing a game and stuff like that, be like, yo, I'm fucking, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I mean, I think that's one of their goals. Is basically, it's like Nintendo kind of fell behind in this generation of consoles and every generation of consoles with online play, and it looks to me like they're trying to not only do just as well with their online features as Microsoft and Sony, but they're trying to, of course, like Nintendo always tries to do, they're trying to go that one step beyond, and they're trying to integrate something new, and they're trying to evolve what's already being done. And I have a lot of respect for Nintendo for doing that. Like, one of the things that we can talk about, actually, we'll jump right into it from E3, is Pikmin 3. Now, I know Pikmin, of course, was a really good game. I enjoyed the first Pikmin.
I enjoyed the second one.
I didn't play the second one, so I can't say I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the first one. And one of the features for Pikmin 3 on the Wii U is you'll be able to play the game without even turning on your TV. You'll be able to play the whole game on the Wii's controller, on that screen on the controller.
Nice.
And then, when you're actually playing the game on your television, the controller will convert to a map view. So it'll be like a map of the area, so you can see what's going on. You can, see where all of your little Pikmin are going.
Nice.
And, of course, on screen is your actual gameplay.
It's like having your own little video game GPS in your hand.
It's like, yeah, exactly. And I think that, I was very skeptical at first when I saw Wii's new controller design. I thought, what was the point? Why do I need a touch screen in my controller? As well as, anything else that they were going to add on to it, GPS, freaking Buffalo Wild Wings, dipping sauce, container holder, whatever. I completely ripped that off of Game Informer, by the way.
Yeah.
Or Game Farcer, by the way.
Yeah.
But I was really skeptical about what they were trying to do with it. And then after, the E3 presentation and after them showing off all the features that this game will be able to okay, you were talking about Zombie U.
Yeah.
The other day, another game that's supposed to come out for the Wii U. It's a first-person shooter, zombies. Your touchscreen is going to be used for minigames such as like lockpicking, and when you're not using it for minigame features like that, you'll use it as an overhead map as well, but it'll also show you hidden items in the area that you won't be able to particularly see on screen while you're playing.
One thing that I saw is like the guy was running away from the zombies, and then he had to go and like put in a code in the on the door, and the actual pad would show up on the screen, and you have to type it in. I thought it was pretty cool.
I'll just be happy that Nintendo's hopefully going away from the friend code system that they had for the Wii, because
So the whole Miiverse thing's gonna come in.
that was just terrible. I don't know who came up with that idea, but they need to be shot.
Yeah,
Well-
I saw them do Rayman. Ubisoft did a Rayman demo, and there's one player where you're using the screen, your character is on the screen, and you're using the touchpad to actually play part of the level on the screen, which looked pretty awesome. You're just this flying one, and you're cutting ropes and everything for people to hang off of and keep progressing through the level. And it looked pretty awesome. Very interested to see that.
I'm really interested to see where Nintendo's going to go with this. You know, they had a very, very strong showing at E3. You had Super Mario Brothers Wii U. You know, you had a lot of titles. They're going to get Batman Arkham City, and they're also going to get Mass Effect 3. You can see that Nintendo is being a little bit more aggressive with their third-party support. They want to be able to branch out from just being that console that has, you know, AAA first-party games and has nothing but shovelware like they did with the Wii. And let's be honest. In the past, that's how Nintendo has won console wars with the Super Nintendo and with the Nintendo. It wasn't about first party. Yeah, they had a solid niche with their first party. And let's be honest, we always talk about exclusives, you know, in the gaming community between Microsoft and Sony. Who has the better exclusive titles, Microsoft or Sony? When you put it into perspective, Nintendo actually has always had the best exclusives.
Got at least 20 years
of exclusives.
Yeah, the experience.
Whether it's
doing that.
Mario, whether it's Zelda, whether it's Kirby, whether it's Donkey Kong titles. I mean, you sit here and might say to yourself that these are kids' titles, but when you sit down and you actually get into it and you actually go and you be unbiased about the situation, these games are just as hardcore for adult gamers as they are for kids.
Right.
Because it's followed so many generations. Also, so
And
many
you can't tell me you
generations
did
have
not
picked up
have
on
fun with Mario Party.
And these games are, I mean, Mario, Zelda, stuff like that, they're cornerstones of the gaming community as a whole. Not just, first-party exclusives. They are gaming history.
And I'm curious to see like what third-party producers are gonna do with the whole little touchpad thing. Like that is what we've been saying is gonna. I personally is gonna draw me in, just to be able to do certain things on that and just feel more submersed in the game as a whole. I think that would work.
And that's sort of Nintendo's like advantage, like their greatest advantage and their greatest disadvantage is the fact that they want to innovate gameplay and gameplay alone.
See,
But now they're bringing in Mass Effect and stuff like that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's going to give them a competition edge.
And that's the cool thing too. It's like, say for example, I saw Tekken. That's one of the games that they had.
They're also getting Darksiders too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, say amongst the gaming community for fighters, you always have to pause the screen, look at your combos and stuff like that as you're training. What if with this, now you can pull up your combo screen on your little screen, meanwhile the game is actually going on.
That's actually a really good idea.
Things like that
Yeah.
could actually really enhance your gameplay as well.
Or what if they had like a Mortal Kombat like they do on Vita, where some of the fatalities are touch sensitive, like you do them using the touch screen on the Vita,
Yeah.
and they did something like that along those lines on the Wii U.
Yeah, certain swipes
the
give you the
possibilities for this
fatality.
thing is really, really, really big. I'm really excited to see what they do with this.
But it's also a double-edged sword, in my opinion, because what you also have is you have a console now. You have the Wii U, which is supposed to, I guess, be the first. It's the smoking bullet in the next-gen wars, okay? The Wii U is going to be the first next-gen console for our generation to come out. So that means the PS4 and the Xbox, whatever, 720, 1440, 0069, whatever it's going to be called, is obviously not even been, announced yet. But that, I guess, we kind of have to bounce from one subject to another in order to put it in perspective. You had Epic unveil their Unreal Engine 4, which we'll touch a little bit more on later on. You also had Square Enix unveil their Luminous graphics engine, which both were really beautiful in two completely different ways. And again, we'll touch more on that in a minute. Will the Wii U be able to support these graphics engines? Or will Nintendo be left in the dark while the next PlayStation and the next 360 pick up with those graphic engines and run with them?
I think they probably will.
I'm going to give a dissenting opinion on that one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look at what you get right now. Yeah, they've got Mass Effect and they got Darksiders coming, but it's current gen graphics, and most of the stuff they've shown off really hasn't been overly impressive in terms of graphics quality. But also looking at them coming out first, the same thing that happened. The Wii came out, you had motion control. All of a sudden, Sony's got motion control. Xbox has a Kinect. they're coming out of the gate strong, coming out first, but that's also going to give the competition time to say, hey, guess what? We got this cool stuff too that can put out better graphics, but do the same thing that your Wii U can do with better games.
Well, if you're talking about the Kinect, you can do it without any type of controller whatsoever. But at the same time, that's a wasted investment on Microsoft's part, in my opinion, because Kinect is a beautiful piece of technology. It is. When you think about it, the advantage or the possibilities that can be done with the Kinect system is endless. But there's not a company yet that has been able to implement something groundbreaking or over-the-top awesome with it yet.
Yeah,
now,
we kinda
Capcom's got
thought
Steel
Star Wars.
Battalion coming out.
Well,
I'm curious to see how that's going to go.
I've been
but
watching
otherwise,
videos about it where people are playing the demo, and it's not responding very well.
it's also an early build of the title.
I know.
So.
I'm just saying the demo's not responding well.
Throwing out
But it's
the,
just a demo.
Throwing out the touchscreen, I don't know if anybody else has saw it, but Microsoft has something kind of similar to that some companies are introducing into their games, is the smart glass.
Well, we'll touch on that in a minute. There's still a couple things I want to tout about the Wii's press conference, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Another thing that Nintendo is doing now with their console, of course, you have other games that are coming out for it. Now, we say that Nintendo, of course, isn't able to hold up in the graphics department. We say that sometimes, the 360 and the PS3 have all these opportunities to take what the Wii has already done with their motion sensor, and they can advance on it. So with the Move, for example, and with Kinect, for example, they can say, okay, you just stated, Shadow, we can do that whole, motion thing too, but we can do it better because we had more time to implement it. But then you have Nintendo, who's obviously able to sit here and tout the fact that they did it first. Okay? You have games that are still coming out for the Wii that are actually pretty good as well. You've got Last Story, which we talked about a couple podcasts ago. That's going to be releasing for the Wii in August. That's actually looking really, really good. The Wii controllers are still going to work for the Wii U. So any controller that you already purchased so far for the Wii will work for the Wii U. And this is what I was really wanting to kind of tout. And this is where I give Nintendo my, of course, weekly word of the night. Kudos. They're also going to have
weekly word of the night.
Weekly word of the night. That makes perfect sense when you think about it, because I use it every week, and it's the word of the night. So they also have a controller coming out. If you're not satisfied or you don't necessarily want to use the touchscreen controller, if there are multi-platform games that are coming out, and you don't want to use that standard touchscreen controller that Nintendo is going to be packaging with the Wii U, they also are going to have a hardcore controller, which is built very similar to the 360 controller. No touchscreen. It's going to have dual analog sticks on it. It's going to have your standard, 4 buttons and shoulder triggers. Now, to me, the biggest turnoff for the Wii was the controller. Even going back and buying the classic controller, I just didn't like the feel of it. My favorite controller of all time is, well, for 90% of the games I play, is the 360 controller. Unless you're talking about fighters, in which case I'll choose a PS3 controller of all of them. But 90% of the time, I would rather choose an Xbox 360 controller. And so the fact that this controller is very similarly built to the 360 controller in design and in size and in button layout, I think that is also a huge plus that the Wii U has going for it. Because now you have that option. And most people who are Nintendo fans up until this point, fanboys are going to say, oh, well, you had that. You didn't have to use the Wii controller. No, you're right. I didn't have to. I had to go back and use that really gaudy and very funny feeling classic controller.
Right.
Yeah.
So all around, and I think that the reason why we decided to talk about the Wii's presentation at E3 before the other two systems is, in my opinion, they had the strongest showing out of all of them. Microsoft and Sony are implementing some really cool technology with E3, the debuts that they had at E3, but Nintendo concentrated on what makes E3 special, and that's the games, and that's gaming. And let's be honest, Nintendo has always done that. Even if it was something you didn't like, even if it was just motion sensing, it was still gaming.
Yeah.
So that leaves Microsoft and Sony to play catch up, even though Nintendo very wisely had the pre-E3 press conference, and then they had the last E3 press conference, not of the whole convention, but just out of the big 3 consoles. Microsoft's press conference, on the other hand, other than a lot of the multi-platform titles that are coming out and Halo 4, Microsoft basically shoveled technology in our faces.
I wasn't really impressed with the whole technology thing that Microsoft came out with. It wasn't anything like the smart glass. Yeah, that's a cool implementation.
I think smart glass is badass.
I don't really like it.
I don't see myself using it as often, but I do think it's really cool.
Yeah, you can use it with your tablet and stuff like that, but to me, it's just not like,
Yeah, gotta have it. I like that.
Yeah.
That was actually.
Well, how do you tout the Wii U's display and everything, but you can't see the reasoning for
'Cause
Xbox doing a smart glass?
For the Wii U, for me, is part of the console. And that's what I like. It's the fact that Wii U is showing, okay, we want to push, consoles as a whole to another level. Not just the same console controller. They want to do something else along with the console. They want to get other people involved as well. Now, with the Microsoft Smart Glass thing, yeah, they do have a cool... It's basically like apps for different things. That's all. That's the way I see it.
Can I answer the same question too?
Yeah.
Because the Wii U's controller and the touchscreen tablet that's built in or whatever is implemented directly into the games.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not a feature for your system, but they are actually... The touchscreen is used for games. It's implemented into the games. With Smart Glass... All Smart Glass is doing, and it's still really cool, don't get me wrong, the Smart Glass technology is really cool, it's really advanced, but is it needed for a gaming console? No. What they tried to do is they're trying to implement your 360 as the entertainment hub of your home, which it's not a bad thing, okay, if you're into that thing. But here's what it is. At no point during Microsoft's press conference did Microsoft show us how Smart Glass was going to be integrated into your game. It showed us how it was going to be integrated into your console. You can bring up a Netflix movie and watch it, pause it, stop it, and then bring it back up on on your phone or on your tablet. Then you can pause it and you can use that to turn on your 360 and finish watching it on your 360. Yeah. Okay, that's great, but you know what? I love Netflix. I have Netflix. I have it on my PS3. I have it on my 360. I have it on my PC, of course. But my 360 is for games.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually some of the they didn't show it during the press conference, but if anybody watched any of the G4 Live, they were talking about the Smart Glass. There were several developers that showed interest, and there were several actually working on implementing the Smart Glass actually into the game to use. And I think one of them was Epic.
Okay, and your point on that is taken, and I'll give credit to your point. But I'll shoot it down with the fact that... No, hold on. I'm not trying to be mean. But I'm going to shoot it down with the fact that at E3, Microsoft showed us the technology with absolutely no insinuation whatsoever that it can be used for gaming. It took a third-party developer to tout the fact that technology can be incorporated into gaming. Microsoft was not supporting it for a game-using device or software. And this is an answer again to VD's question. Nintendo, on the other hand, took their touchpad controller and integrated it as much as they did their motion controller for the Wii. And they showed us how it's going to make gameplay different, how it's going to evolve gameplay on their system, and how much it is going to be credible to the gaming community as far as what the uses are going to be. And in my opinion, that's the difference. If Epic or any other developer wants to take the Smart Glass technology and integrate it into their games, that's fine. But what they're going to do at the same time, because this isn't a software that's packed into their system, they're going to alienate a lot of gamers. Let's say, for example, you don't have a smartphone or you don't have a tablet.
Yeah.
But there's this really cool game out, let's say Mass Effect 4, which we know isn't going to happen, but just first thing that popped in my head. Let's say BioWare makes a Mass Effect 4, and they want to take Smart Glass and they want to incorporate it into their game. Well, you don't have a smartphone, and VD, you don't have a tablet. So how are you going to take advantage of those features?
Not to mention that it's only going to be capable with certain brands and certain things because of all their partnerships and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So maybe you do have a tablet, maybe you do have a smartphone, but it's not with the service that they're doing it through.
No
so
compatibility
you have no compatibility whatsoever.
To whereas the Wii controller, the touchpad, comes packaged with the console. You're not paying extra for it. You're not paying extra for a monthly service through your phone provider, which I'm not saying you need to do that to implement the software, but if you're going to use your phone, then you have to have phone service.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my thing is you can't Microsoft is trying to do something a little bit different, throw something out there, but realistically it's hard to compare the Wii U and their touchscreen to the Smart Glass.
Well, we weren't comparing them as in apples and oranges. Yeah. We were comparing them as in what relevance will they have to the gaming community.
Yeah.
And that's where you can make those comparisons. Yeah. And in my opinion, the Wii U has the leg up on Microsoft. And Microsoft had a strong showing with their conference. It wasn't horrible, although most of the stuff that they were showing was just, again, entertainment integrated software into the console. But they did have I wouldn't say they had a strong showing with games, but let's be honest. They did have what we here at WLG voted as, our number one pick of E3, which we'll get into later with our top 5. but their first 10 minutes of presentation was Halo 4. And I'm sorry, but the game looks beautiful. If you had any doubts whatsoever in your mind that 343 was going to drop the ball with the Halo universe since Bungie left, then if you weren't paying attention to E3, then you really have no reason to play Halo. You might as well just go and pick up a copy of Raving Ravids, what? Raven Rabbids, and just move on. Because after watching the gameplay footage and after watching the integrations that they have put into Halo 4, you know what?
God,
awesome. There's no doubt in my mind that 343 not only took the ball and ran with it, they punted that bitch across the field and then caught it themselves after punting it themselves and ran back to the other end of the field with it. It was absolutely amazing.
Because they have enough employees to do that. No, but going back to the Wii U, one of the biggest things why I like what they're doing is because it's gonna push gaming consoles, if you know what I mean. Like,
as far as
the heavy,
the integration,
competition.
Yeah, it's gonna push. Like, for example, the Wii came out with the motion controllers. Then what did Microsoft and Xbox do?
Motion.
Exactly. Same thing with this. They integrated the new controller. So what do you think Microsoft and Xbox is going to do?
Okay, well let me ask you a question then, based off of what you just said.
Right.
In comparison with the Wii and the Wii U, do you think that the Wii U's touchscreen controller is going to have as big of an impact on the gaming community as the Wii's motion sensor and the Wiimote?
I think really
I would think so.
The Wiimote was horrid. It was good on paper, but whenever they executed, they did not.
But you can't deny that with first-party developed titles, and you can't deny that when it was actually done right, that it worked A+.
Oh yeah, dude, playing the Zelda game. What game was what was it called?
Skyward Sword?
Yeah, Skyward Sword.
I was going to say
that,
Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, playing that on the Wii was really fun. Now with some other games, it didn't really work the way I wanted.
Well, that would be shovelware.
The Tiger Woods.
Which Nintendo is famous for, the whole shovelware.
Well,
thing.
Nintendo's not famous for shovelware. The third-party developers who are just trying to make a quick buck are famous for it.
It's Nintendo accepting it is the problem.
That's true. That's true.
Because, from what I understand, Nintendo's quality control process is basically non-existent, as opposed to Microsoft and Sony, where you actually, to get a game on the system, you actually have to go to them and pitch it. So Nintendo's like, oh, you made a game. Yeah, we'll put it out there.
Well, all right.
And another thing too with the whole Wii, like they said that one game, like just the way it's gonna integrate everybody in the living room playing together. How 3 people can team up with 1 person. Like they have that game where 1 person's invisible and 3 have to team up against that 1 person. But that 1 person knows where he's at and he's supposed to get the other ones.
Because of the touchscreen, they can't see him. Yeah.
Because of the touchscreen, they can't see him. So I mean that also opens up a whole other door to possibilities for games. Like. That's pretty much all I had to say about that.
All right. Well, Microsoft also had.
Go ahead, my
sorry.
thoughts about the Wii U is I think the most important factor is who's gonna buy it day one at launch.
Oh, I don't.
I am.
You are.
I will buy a Wii U
to
at
me,
launch.
there's nothing that's at launch or near launch that entices me to want to go out and buy one.
Do you know why I'm going to buy one at launch?
Why is that?
So that when we actually talk about a Wii U, we know what the hell we're talking about because we've actually played it.
But I fear it's going to be like the 3DS, where the 3DS had a real slow start because their launch library wasn't all that great. I mean, you had Super Street Fighter 4 come out, but then it kind of slundered for a little bit for about a couple months. But once the games came back in, I'd be interested. But you got to remember that they have a year start. Now, if they can't get out the gate really well, and Sony and Microsoft reveal their consoles, and they're gonna hop on there, then that start didn't really help them out that much.
Think about. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the big problems with Nintendo is, like, especially ever since the GameCube, their launch, really their software, really hasn't been there. Like, they have maybe a couple first-party titles, but they have nothing to back it up with. Like, hey, here's this awesome game over here, but we're not gonna talk about that because we have Mario.
Yeah.
See, if they would have had something like Resident Evil 4 at the gate of GameCube's release, they would have been so much in and the edge of winning. So
let me ask you a question. Name what one current gen system that had a strong launch lineup.
360 had Halo when it first came out.
Okay. And
look how far Halo's
Wii U
brought.
And Wii U's gonna have Mario.
Yeah, I think 360 won that battle.
No. But think about it. You're touting one game, which I love. I love the Halo universe. I love the 360, of course. But think about it. Other than that, what can you name?
Let's see. Well, Perfect Dark failed. I think
Perfect Dark
failed.
Gonna drop.
Didn't they have Forza as far as one of the launch titles?
Dead Rising, I think, if you
Dead
want to
Rising
consider.
was one of them.
But think about it though. Look at how. But the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, we could talk about the 3DS, we could talk about the Vita. Look at the PlayStation 3. It took the PlayStation 3 roughly 3 years to get off the ground running with a solid library.
Well, that was with the price tag too.
Regardless,
Yeah.
regardless,
Well, I mean,
the
PS3 is second in the world right
I'm
now.
not. Hold on. I'm not talking about the system or the price. I'm talking about the software and the launch lineup. It took the PS3 3 years roughly to have a solid lineup to actually hold a candle to the Wii or the 360. And that's not me being a fanboy. I own a PS3. You guys see it right there. I love my PS3. I love the games that are on there. I love playing it. I have a bunch of classics downloaded on there. I'm not downing the system. The library was horrid. All current gems. I keep saying that. Am I thinking of Street Fighter Cross Tekken Marvin? All the current gen systems that are out right now had slow launches. So to say that that's going to be a huge either advantage or disadvantage, I don't think it really is. Now, at the beginning of this generation, before the 360 dropped, before the PS3 dropped, before the Wii dropped, I would have said yes, a solid library is absolutely mandatory for a solid system launch. But now, looking back 5 years ago, when all these three systems, plus currently with the 3DS and the Vita came out, none of them had solid launch titles. You had a handful of titles to choose from, and you bought the system simply for those handfuls of titles. Now, with the Wii U, you're going to have Pikmin 3, you're going to have Zombie U, you're going to have Super Mario Bros. Wii U, which they said aren't going to be available right at launch, but will still be launch titles, because with the new generation, launch windows are actually measured in months as opposed to immediate releases. So, I'm not trying to be a Nintendo fanboy or stick up for them, but I am trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and be unbiased in the situation.
No, that's exactly.
No current gen console has had a solid launch lineup. Probably the last console that had a solid launch lineup was the PlayStation 1.
Yep.
Yeah, I would give it that, maybe a little bit of the, selling it for maybe the Xbox, just because of Halo.
No,
But-
the Xbox didn't even have a solid lineup.
Yeah.
Again, it
Well,
had Halo,
you have to
which is
understand,
great,
too,
but
Halo. I mean, not Halo.
But it had a
Xbox,
year
Xbox,
start with that, though.
Yeah, it did, and they also dropped the ball on that. Because having the year start, they didn't come out with HDMI outputs on their system. And that's hardware in itself. So they did drop the ball with that. They had to come out with.
they tried to go to war with Sony
Yeah.
and their Blu-ray,
You
and they
also have to
lost.
remember when Xbox came out, dude. Like, HD TVs were like $4,000, $5,000.
exactly.
That's true, but that's
HDMI
that's-
technology
that's-
was like.
But
That
Sony-
is, that is the thing, though. Consoles are supposed to push you or give you that option, so whenever prices do go
Exactly.
down on bigger on like TVs and stuff like that, because eventually they will. They need to give you that option. They need to think ahead because of that.
Exactly, and I think, look at Sony. Sony didn't sit here and say, oh, well, there's no such thing as a Blu-ray player, so we're not going to put our discs on Blu-ray. They said,
Yeah.
you know what, we're going to make our games on Blu-ray so that everybody is forced to make Blu-ray players.
That's Sony just.
And I think that's one of the underlying...
This them being the, gorilla in the room is being able to push it.
No,
Yeah.
because I think that's the
That
underlying...
that whole war, the disc war from
Yeah.
HD DVD and.
That's one thing
Sony.
that's overlooked. The video game industry pushes the rest of the world technologically.
It does.
The video game industry is the fastest growing technological industry in the world. That's over wars. That's over weapons manufacturers. That's over, germ warfare. I mean, let's be honest. And I don't know what kind of things that says about the human race that we have to advance technologically through entertainment more so than it is before human preservation. But, the video game, and that's where Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony need to kind of sit back and say, wait a minute, if it wasn't for us, we wouldn't have most of these entertainment advances in technology like we have in the world nowadays. So, okay, we talked about Nintendo's press conference. We talked about Microsoft's lack of a press conference. Sony.
In the middle.
Sony, to me, and I love Sony. I will go out and say that. I love Sony. You guys know I love Sony. To me, it wasn't the most exciting thing was the PlayStation Plus and how they're releasing new games for
Yeah.
The free ones.
the free
You can get
games.
Virtua Fighter Final Showdown right now for free if you're a PlayStation
Yeah.
Plus owner.
But
Like-
there's a problem with that, though, if you read the fine print.
What is it?
Is the only way you can access those games is if you still have a subscription. If you cancel your subscription,
Yeah,
you don't
lose
have
those
that.
games.
Yeah,
They're
Oh
gone.
yeah,
They're gone.
that's always been with PlayStation Plus though. That's what ever since PlayStation Plus. I mean, they put that in clear. If you don't have PlayStation Plus, you don't have access to all that stuff because it's a feature,
Well,
and you're paying for that. That's the whole thing they're
Well,
touting.
it's more like a rental.
I think
Yeah, pretty much. But even though for trophy hunters and stuff like that to have PlayStation Plus and be able to do all that stuff, that's a really good feature. Now, aside from that, the games that came out, was probably the only other highlight that I can think about for the Sony press conference.
I want to backtrack just for a minute because one thing that we overlooked with Microsoft's press conference is the new Gears of War.
I'm not big into prequels.
But we talked about this last week, though. You know, yeah, this is a prequel, but it's also a story unto itself. This is not a prequel as in it's going to rely heavily on Marcus Phoenix and the Gears of War trilogy. This is actually Baird's story.
But I don't really care about stories that happened. I care about what's going to happen.
All right, well, that's fine, but I just want to go ahead and throw that out there. The Microsoft did have the new Gears demoed at E3, and I thought it looked great. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. I love the Gears series. I will be picking it up. I will be playing it. So I just want to make that fair and make it a fair statement before we head into the PlayStation press conference, because the PS3 actually had a couple games, that were really worth noting as far as exclusives go. And the first two that pop into my head are Beyond.
Yeah. Good premise anyway. I mean, how the game's gonna turn out, we'll see. But
yeah,
you get to destroy stuff with an invisible creature thing.
Well, it's a ghost.
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
Yeah.
You have a ghost, and you'll be swapping back and forth throughout the title between the ghost and the main protagonist, which their names slip my mind at the moment, but it'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game about a ghost chick with a scar on her head and a whole bunch of time missing. So,
Well, let's not take away from what it really is, though, and that's absolutely beautiful.
Sounds like a Saturday night at Vicious'
Wait,
house.
yeah, really. Yeah, how many chicks walk out of your house with scars on the back of their heads?
None, as far as I can tell.
Such a lie.
No, but since we are talking about prequels and the Sony conference, God of War.
That was my next one. I was going to talk about God of War Ascension.
See, I love God of War, but the whole prequel thing for God of War, I don't really dig it. The only reason why I would pick up the game is for the multiplayer.
And I think
that's all I'm looking for.
But I think that's the reason behind it, though. I don't think you're into, I don't think anybody is going to go pick up God of War Ascension for the story. You're going to go pick it up for the gameplay, the multiplayer, like you do any God of War, the gameplay.
And here's the thing, too, and this is one thing that gets on my nerves about prequels. For Gears of War, they're going to have weapons that they didn't have in the other games. So you're going to be like, okay, that weapon is clearly more advanced than such weapon in the other games, so why didn't they have that weapon then?
Because they all went to George Lucas for advice.
Yeah, it's the Star Wars syndrome. I mean, come on.
And same thing with God of War. God of War, I saw Kratos using some time manipulative thing. How come he didn't have that before?
Because he's a dead Spartan now.
Right, but still, he was still badass Spartan regardless. But still, he didn't have that power in the previous titles. Why didn't he have that power? That power seemed very useful in this new one. So why didn't he keep it?
Like, you know why they have that in their Vicious?
Why?
Because they want to.
Bottom line, direct answer. Okay.
Just remember it's a game.
It's a game, baby. It's a game.
But you know what though? I here's my thing though. Again, we've all talked about how we dislike prequels.
Yeah.
But I do think that God of War and I do think that Gears of War. Isn't that weird how they're both GOWs?
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Anyway, both GOWs.
It's
the Sony GOW and the 360 GOW.
The year of Gal.
The year of Gow. Is that a new disease?
Sounds like it.
Is it an STD or is it
Prequelitis?
Prequelitis.
You gotta pick it up day one.
Yeah.
He's all over that.
Yeah. I am a trendsetter, buddy.
Gonna add to my collection?
Yeah, I do. Are we gonna go back to the whole braggart thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
go to the hipster route.
I am not a hipster, you douche.
I don't think he's a hipster. I think he's more of a counterculturist.
There you go.
Counterculturist.
There you go. You like it? Well, I hate it.
You elitist.
You just had to throw fuck in there, didn't you?
Yes.
You just had to say fuck again.
I just wanted to see how Moonlight was gonna handle that.
Poorly, it sounds like.
He's pouting apparently.
Now he has to bleep.
The Wonder Book. Is that what it is? The Wonder Book?
The Wonder, that's
Something
what it's
like
called.
that, yeah.
The Wonder Book? Is this like a Wonder Pets thing? The Wonder Pets? Or is it Wonder Twins? Activation
Wonder
go?
Ball.
Form of water! Yeah,
Wonder
okay, you know what?
Ball.
Here, Vicious and I were talking about this earlier, okay? The Wonder Book. And VD, I'm sorry. VD and Vicious and I, there's just a lot of V's in there, so I had to kind of... My dyslexia was about to kick in and kick all our asses. The Wonder Book. VD, you say it's a pretty good thing?
I think it's great for, maybe not for our demographic. It has good potential to help, it's edutainment to me.
Edutainment.
It's like
I like that word. I like that edutainment.
It's like our Build Not a Science Guy, the Magic School Bus, where it'll get us hooked in to actually
What
learn
is it,
something.
The Reading
and actually-
Rainbow.
What is it?
Reading
Super
Rainbow
Mario's
thing.
Time Machine. Super Mario's Time Machine.
Oh, I remember that for Super Nintendo?
Yeah, Mario's missing.
Mario's missing, yeah.
I don't remember that, but I still think it'll be a good tool to help.
Hey, burn
Instead
that
of
brain
just
cell
having
up.
people shooting people in the face and everything, now we have a tool that can help us learn things and be interactive with just in a
Now
static
we
book.
goes, man.
now we
I
can
can-
put people with a digital stick.
I can see how that would be cool, but at the same time, who's gonna buy this thing? Like,
Harry Potter fans.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
No, I can definitely see that. But what I'm trying to get to with the whole Wonder Book is, you're right. It's great for a not our demographic.
We're seeing like Magic the Gathering. Like, say if you have Magic the Gathering, you have your cards out there, and you have your book.
Did they not try that already with the iToy?
I think they had like a third-party game that was really.
Hey, I Have Judgment wasn't a bad
Eye of
game.
Judgment was a good game.
Judgment
Was
a
it?
really good game.
I wish that I could find what I needed to actually play it now. I thought that was really great. How you could take your card and you can drop it down in front of the iToy and kind of like Magic the Gathering, and then but you know, let's digress. Okay, how much is this peripheral going to cost you?
I have no clue.
Give me a guess. Just give me a numbered
I'd
guess.
say about 40.
40 bucks? Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
You think
40
40, 50?
bucks.
What do you think? 40, 50?
Yeah.
I think this peripheral is going to cost you anywhere between $60 to $80. Okay, and
Well,
I think
it depends, because if you have the PlayStation camera for the Move already, then there's.
True.
okay. I also
there's
think
no
that
slide
instead of
style.
buying that, I'm going to pack up my kids. I'm going to drive my happy ass to the library and get a library card, and I'm going to make them read the good old-fashioned way.
They're gonna hate you for that.
Yeah.
You think so?
I'd hate
Yeah,
you for
probably.
that.
Really? Would you?
Especially if my buddy's reading Harry Potter on the TV and dragons and.
Really? Because after
casting spells are
after my
coming
kid
out.
gets in his 30 or 45 minutes of reading a day, I'm going to let him jump on Halo. And meanwhile, your buddy is still over there reading Harry Potter on a Wonder Book.
Hyper Vegas
I don't think-
is
I don't
our
think-
accelerated reader from
Instead of playing a real man's game.
No, it could have some potential. I don't think the way they executed it in the conference was really good. I don't think it was.
I don't know. I thought it was very cheesy. I thought it was
That's
very
what I'm saying. Like,
institutionalized.
oh, and now you have to shoot a paper dragon. Like, and the bitch was
paper
like,
dragon.
ah! Like she was shooting
Yay.
everything but this damn dragon.
You have virtual origami.
Incendio.
And I mean, if it was an R-rated or M-rated title, the dragon would have eaten this bitch alive.
You really just called a kid a bitch?
Well,
No,
what
she
about
wasn't a
this?
kid.
I mean,
She was in her late.
You're right, it was a
20s.
late 20 or
I mean,
late
I got
30s.
robot eyes. I mean, no,
Throw-
I got
throw it
robot
down.
I
eyes.
have robot eyes. You have
Okay,
robot
sorry,
hands.
Sorry about
what if someone somewhere is going to make some like kind of third party, not so legal game that's probably going to involve some Playboy bunnies?
Only you would seriously think about that.
He's already programming it. He's
Yeah, I'm already
actually-
working on
yeah,
that.
He's got
everything.
coding down, and
Yeah.
he's got
Down.
freaking
He's got
HTML
those
and
boom physics.
yeah, no
down.
kidding,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Are you using the Unreal Engine 4 on this?
Make it as real
you
as
have to
possible.
have
Does it have
realistic-
bloom?
only on certain items?
So I think one or two items would bloom.
There's certain ones.
Well, since
such
we
as
brought up-
the,
We brought up Unreal Engine 4 twice now. We'll go ahead and move into the the pretty part of E3. We had two graphic engines make a debut. Now, Unreal Engine 4 made its debut a little bit before E3 with screenshots and such, of course, from Epic. But at E3, they showed a full live demo. Also, Square Enix showed up, and they said, well, you know what? You're not the only guys on the corner that have something badass and pretty to show. We've got our Luminous engine to show off. So now you've got Epic and Square Enix showing off, respectively, their Unreal Engine 4 and their Luminous engines. And in my opinion, most people, of course, can sit here and they can go back and forth over which one looked better, which one was prettier. To me, I saw two different things, and I got two different things out of both of these demos. I see Epic, who put together an engine that is easy to use, okay? Okay?
okay.
Okay?
All right.
They put together an engine that's easy to use. Really? We can't have one night without having censorship.
249.
No kidding. Were you listening to Cypress Hill on the way here?
Now, for the engines, I really could care less.
But you didn't let me finish.
Shut up. For the engines, like for
Wow.
example, for example,
Vicious speaks.
you're not gonna play the game because of the engine. You're gonna play the game because of the title and because of what the game actually offers.
You're wrong.
No,
Wrong.
I am completely
People
right.
love
Wrong.
graphics.
Yeah, people do love graphics.
Hold on.
Wrong.
I'll tell you what. You're right in a sense. If the gameplay's there, then the game is there.
Here's a
I
perfect
understand
example. You're gonna pick up what's it called? Persona 4 Arena, right?
Yes.
That doesn't have the Luminous engine or the other engine, does it?
You're right, but you know what? At the same time, it doesn't look like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or the original Street Fighter. It's still current gen graphics.
There's
but
an
you have to think. No, there is no Ultimate
For Marvel
vs.
2?
No,
No, I stuttered on that one. Sorry.
But
It's done by Atlas.
But
Must
still,
say.
you still have games, or you still have gamers and tournaments that still play on those older, graphics or whatever. what's it called?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, for
look
example.
At what happened there?
That's a
Look what's
perfect
going on
example.
there.
People are gonna pick up the game because it's fun to play and because it becomes a trend, not really because of the fact that whatever engine is being touted or whatever like that. Now you do have, and here's another perfect example: Crysis. For one, I love the graphics on Crysis, but the gameplay for me wasn't there.
Yeah, I agree with him on that.
All right,
Crysis 2
now
wasn't that great.
I agree with you.
Crazy.
Okay, yeah, I disagree. I disagree on the Crysis thing, but I agree. I agree on the graphics thing to an extent, and I'll tell you why. Yes, at the core, what makes a great game is the gameplay itself. I understand that.
Right.
But we were just talking about how the video game industry is what fuels technology. And if you were to make a video game on a next-gen console, the graphics and the gameplay need to go hand in hand. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a game simply because it looks pretty. Because the gameplay could be absolute shite. And, of course, that'll be crap. And I understand that.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm saying. Me,
human.
personally, with my taste on games.
But the point that I'm trying to make is
Right.
if you put a next-gen game in my face and it doesn't look like a next-gen game...
Right.
Yeah, it's an instant not gonna buy.
Oh,
No.
yeah,
I'm not going to say it's an instant not going to buy. I will say it's an instant I'll wait till it's $20 and pick it up a year later. But I am going to go over here and play this new Final Fantasy
talking about the
because, by
system
God,
itself.
it's beautiful and the gameplay is awesome.
I was talking about
So-
the system itself. Like,
And that's just my thing.
That's what I'm
If
saying,
you
like-
ask anybody, whether you agree with Vicious or you agree with me or you have your own opinion, 90% of the gaming population is going to look at you and they're going to say, if a game looks like ass, they're not going to get into it. And I'm the same way. I don't expect a game to be as absolutely beautiful. Like, I can make exceptions and substitute gameplay for graphics, but at the same time, if the game looks like shit, I'm not touching it.
As gamers, we become spoiled with the graphics, quite honestly.
Well,
No, I don't think that's
can't-
it either.
You can't. I can't
majority
go
of
back and play Ocarina of Time now, and that was one of my favorite games of all time.
You know,
just
it
because
is. It's
it
hard.
just is hard to.
It becomes
to go
embedded.
Back that far.
Yeah, it becomes embedded. It
Right,
becomes
yeah.
the norm.
Well,
It becomes
okay.
the status quo,
But
and it
here's the
becomes
thing,
one
though.
of the expectations.
You're talking about games that were, older than what, of course, we're playing now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you have a next-gen console that you're about to shell out $400, $500 for, that son of a bitch better be rendered absolutely perfectly.
But I mean, if it's a next-gen console, everybody's automatically going to think better graphics. So I mean, that's
Well,
a given that they're going to come out with better graphics.
it is the first thing I think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking graphics, I'm thinking memory and processors power. That way they can.
Right, but
input
right now
more
we're
to the
talking
game,
about
but yeah.
graphics.
But yeah.
So it's obvious that they're going to come out with graphics. Now, here's what I'm saying. With that whole thing, and this is, like I said, my opinion. I play Batman Arkham City and Asylum. It was run on Unreal Engine 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I play those games, and I do like the graphics, but what really made the game solid for me was A, the story, and B, the way they executed the mechanics of the game.
All right, now
Oh, yeah.
check this out. The mechanics wouldn't have worked without Unreal Engine 3 being pushed to its limits because the gameplay would not have been that smooth. It would have clipped. It would have had sprite or pixel or graphical hiccups,
Right.
which would have caused you to
tears.
have inaccurate gameplay.
Right. Well, it still has screen tears and all that
But
stuff.
yeah,
it
but
does-
the
it
point I'm
does
trying to
push
make
it.
though is better graphics, better processing, and better power from a graphics engine do make for better gameplay.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's a given with
They're
a
hand in
next-gen
hand.
console. That's what I'm saying. So,
But-
I mean,
I know.
it's obvious that it's going to come out.
But they're hand in hand with most with
Right.
certain
I
games.
think we're discussing about the same thing.
So then we'll move on.
Just in
Unreal
different
Engine 4.
ways.
I thought Unreal Engine 4 was beautiful. I thought that the environments were beautiful. I thought the lighting was absolutely gorgeous. The way that it was implemented through the demo that was shown at E3. I think Epic is sitting on, of course, a cash cow, because, of course, they lease out their Unreal Engine 3 to
Oh, yeah.
gobs and gobs and gobs of
Everybody.
gaming
Oh, yeah.
companies out there.
Oh, yeah.
Unreal Engine 4 is not going to be any different. Now, but this is my thing. Square Enix's Luminous, you heard almost nil about up until this point. They might have had stories here and there across the board online,
They had a story about the fence.
but yeah, I remember that in the garage. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was really it. You didn't really hear much else about it.
There's a
Yeah.
fence
And-
in the garage.
Well, it was a parking deck. What
the
they did,
garage.
what Square Enix did, what was it, about 6-7 months ago?
Yeah.
They took a picture of a gate in a parking deck, and then they rendered that same picture in their Luminous engine, and it was almost identical.
Yeah, it looked,
The only difference-
I did see that picture.
Yeah, there
too.
was literally really minor graphical differences between the two, but it was utterly almost identical.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
Didn't they say that one of the perks of the Luminous engine was the where they could actually take like a real photograph and basically like scan it into the engine and it
Yeah.
would basically render it for them in a way?
The
where they could-
Luminous engine concentrated more on and I'm going to cut you off, but I just want to elaborate a little more. I just wanted to elaborate a little more so that you had more to go with. The Luminous engine, and this is just what I picked up from the demos. The Luminous engine concentrated more on characters, facial expressions, okay, hair, follicles, pores, follicles. It concentrated more on facial movement, on body animations, on how realistic these characters interacted, on how real they looked while interacting with each other, whether it was the environments or the lighting. Whereas the Unreal Engine 4 concentrated on the environments themselves and the lighting themselves. So that's where earlier in the podcast, when I said they were the same things going down two separate roads, that's what I meant.
Right.
Now you have the Unreal Engine that showed us how many millions and millions of sprites that they can have on screen at one time. When they had the little ball demo going, you had Fire Ice, and then you had the magic one. It was absolutely stunning. Then you had Square Enix's Luminous Engine going, where it was literally a Final Fantasy tech demo, a next generation Final Fantasy tech demo anyway, and you had the old man who had like 3 teeth in his mouth, and the camera pans up to close, and you can literally see the hair on his head and on his face swaying in the wind. And it's not like and I love how you use the emo hair flip as I said that, BD. It's not like, okay, in current gen games you have hair that's pretty, but when it blows in the wind, you can tell it's layered 3, 4, 5, 6 layers on top of one another, whatever.
And not layered in the
like
beautification type of way.
Yeah.
Not layered like women get their hair layered, but you can tell graphically it is layered.
Yeah, but the Luminous Engine it looks like they took each individual piece of hair and rendered it individually, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think that I'm not going to sit here and compare the two. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, because again, it's apples and oranges, even though it's going down the same path.
We have to think about it this way. It's going to be a win-win regardless, because there's going to be multiple games.
Yeah, we're the ones.
But how many people are going to use the Luminous Engine though? See, Epic, they're nefarious for releasing out their Unreal Engine.
Right.
But Square Enix are only going to use it, I believe, for first-party titles.
It's going to boil down to which one is easier to work with.
Oh, definitely going to be Unreal.
Also, what they're going to make available, because, like you said, Square Enix is notorious for basically they'll create an engine, but they'll use it just themselves.
And that's what they're going to do. They'll probably let Eidos use it. Their subsidiaries use it, of course. Can you imagine Tomb Raider on the Luminous Engine? Like when she's stuck in water or whatever, and oh my God, how beautiful is that?
And that's a white t-shirt.
Everybody everybody that's a gamer will know what is the first thing you look at whenever you're trying to look for graphics in a game.
Water.
Exactly, you look at water.
Well, you would look at.
You would look at but everybody knows.
Is that going to be in your Sony Wonderbook ripoff game?
Yes. Everybody will go in a game, no matter what game that is, and they'll look at water. I know I did it with the Xbox title Oni Musha, I think it was.
Onimusha.
Yeah, Onimusha.
Onimusha.
I did that when you're going through this little valley and you see the water. I was like, oh, look at that water.
Yeah, I did that in Skyrim. Like I would stand there on the bank of a lake or a river or a creek or something, and I would just watch the water flow.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, holy. Or even Hydrophobia, which was a download title.
Had a
But
great example.
yeah, the water was beautiful. It was never the same. And I know that sounds really weird saying the water was never the same. But when you play most games, and you get stuck in a situation like that where it's a part of that particular level you're playing, the water's going to flow the same. It's all going to happen the same. To whereas in Hydrophobia, it was all different. You would play through it once and you get to a specific part and you do one thing, like let's say move a crate from one end of the room to the other, and the water would sway in a specific way, or it would open a door in a specific way, or crash against the door.
Yeah.
You go through your second playthrough and do it again. The water would. It was different completely. It had a mind of its own. They literally dedicated a portion of the graphics engine to the water itself.
Right, and that's the best thing about it. Even I remember with Journey. Journey's a PSN title.
Yeah. Oh yeah, beautiful game.
Beautiful. Game. Like whenever you're walking in the sand on this game, like you can see your footsteps making the sand raise up and everything, and it stays that way too. Same thing with Uncharted 3. Whenever he's walking in the sand.
Yeah.
Beautiful graphics, but I think, like I said, this is going to be a win-win for all of us.
All right, so who had the best press conference this year? In our opinion. Now, let's go on record as to say that this is our opinion as a group. We're not going to say it's definitive.
Are we going to console-wise?
Yeah.
I would say Wii U.
I would agree. I think Nintendo had the best conference.
I think PS3, because Beyond and The Last of Us looked great.
Is The Last of Us a PS3 exclusive?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Naughty Dog, yeah. We didn't even mention that because we were going to mention it later in our runners.
I'm going to give it over to Nintendo on this one just because they're throwing the new console out and they're kind of leading that one up. So everybody else was showing off a couple games, a little bit of technology, but Nintendo's like, hey, here's the Wii U.
Nintendo showed up ready to go.
Yeah,
they were
showed up
like,
ready
you know
to
what,
roll,
because they've got the raw end of the deal the last couple years with the Wii. They were tired of that shit. Miyamoto and his fashionably awesome T-shirts. They showed up at E3 and they were just like, you know what, you can kiss our ass. We're Nintendo, and we started this shit, and damn it, we're gonna finish it.
I'm gonna give Sony because I probably won't buy the Nintendo console.
You're so biased though. Everything for you is Sony.
Fanboy.
No, he's got a Mac.
Oh, yeah.
That's only because PlayStation doesn't make computers.
Yeah, you do. We didn't make the Sony Vaio. Shows how much you.
That's not a PlayStation computer. It's a Sony computer.
No.
All right, so I guess now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna head into our top 5. Now let's go ahead and explain how our top 5 works. Our top 5 isn't going to be like all these other websites and all these other podcasts where they talk about what's the most popular, or they talk about what's the most technologically advanced, or they talk about what's the most, what's paying them to say they're the best. Right. We're not going to go by awards at the show. Halo 4 had a number of nominations. Borderlands 2 had a number of nominations. We're going by our personal favorites. Each one of us, there's 5 of us in the office right now. We each picked one particular game that stood out the most for us during E3. And that's how we decided our top 5. So if you disagree with our top 5, you are more than welcome to do so. Of course, this is all opinion.
Tell us about it.
But
Where?
right now, winlossgaming.com.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go to the forums, hit the forums, let us know. You don't like it? This is going to be posted in an article within the next 24 hours, I'm sure, which I guess doesn't matter to people listening because they'll be listening to this for a week till we do our next one. So, just let us know. It's fine. But, this is our top 5 from E3. And if we had theme music for it, it would go something like this. Really, Shadow? That's all you
gotta
had?
have the Inception.
You're right.
Bass
Cable
thing,
guy.
too. And going to our top 5.
Moving on.
All right, so our number 5 pick from E3 was Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs is awesome. If you haven't seen the trailer, the gameplay demo was great. It looked like a more serious, story-heavy Grand Theft Auto. The detailing in it was great. Every single car was greatly rendered. It looked great.
Now, is this is an open sandbox?
It's sort of like an open sandbox, but it's heavily on story. The storyline is awesome too. It's about sort of like the Matrix. Government watching everything you do and recording everything you do.
It'll be like Eagle Eye more so.
Sort of.
Now, this came out of nowhere. Like, Watch Dogs came out of absolutely
Ubisoft.
nowhere, and Ubisoft just punched us in the face with this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great hit. I think Ubisoft knocked it out of the park with this game, and I can't wait for it. It looks great, and the story's awesome. It's
really weird, too. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to point this out while I'm thinking about it. They also talked about Splinter Cell and showed off the new Splinter Cell demo, which was absolutely... If you actually watch the Splinter Cell demo from Ubisoft and you watch the gameplay for it, it was absolutely amazing. Like, it blew me away.
Yeah, it blew me away, too.
Then they come up with Watch Dog, and you're like... do you feel kind of guilty? Because, you're still on that hype high from Splinter Cell, and then all of a sudden Watch Dog comes in, and you're just like, wait, what? That's not Sam... what?
Exactly.
And next thing you know, your conversations are more attuned to Watch Dog than they are Splinter Cell.
Definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. Blacklist looked okay. It's just the only thing I was afraid of is that it was just an automatic win button. Whenever when you mark your targets and everything, you're just going in there and you're pressing a button, so it does the kills and everything for you, and it's just
killing into motion.
Is what they call the game, or
I'm more for Splinter Cell. I'm more intrigued by the fact that they're probably gonna push the multiplayer, because the multiplayer for the other Splinter Cells
versus Mercs
was really
yeah,
fun.
that was fun.
I think by far, because of the fact that you can't just rush in like you can on Call of Duty, that game will be so technical when it comes to making what's it called
executing.
Yeah, to executing tactical moves and stuff like that. I think I'm really excited for the multiplayer side of that.
All right, so
that's it.
Our number 4 pick from E3 this year, and this was my personal pick, was Metro Last Light. Now, this is why I picked Metro Last Light. Metro 2033 was a sleeper hit. Metro 2033 was amazing. You basically played, this Russian guy, his character, It was after post-apocalyptic, world's destroyed by nukes, and you're underground. Of course, you have Fallout and other games like that basically do that. But my thing about Metro was the realism that was atoned to it.
Yeah.
That's
what it's known for.
Yeah, everything you did in that game, you had a button for. If you had to light a lighter, you had to whip it out and do it. If you wanted to look at your watch to make sure you still had enough airtime in, you had to press the button to look at your watch. You had to be careful with your ammo because they did not sit here and give you gobs of ammo to use. You had to conserve it as well as use it as currency. Now, in Metro Last Light took that and they ran with it. First and foremost, the game is beautiful. All right, the screenshots were beautiful. The demo was beautiful. The gameplay was beautiful, and I thought that the realism that they had in the first game, they carried over to the second game. They made it a little bit more accessible. Your watch, for example, that times your airflow and all that. Your watch is it's noticeable at all times now because you're holding your gun with 2 hands and the watch is right there, so you can see. Now, of course, you can't breathe radioactive air, so of course you have to wear your gas mask. Your gas masks don't last forever. In the gameplay demo that we watched earlier, you only had 5 minutes before you had to find another mask. Now, that's not going to be too much of a problem because there's bodies littered all over the place with gas masks. You pick one up and you put it on and you're good. But this is what I thought was really cool. Your gas mask isn't just used for air. It interacts. The environment interacts with your gas mask. If someone attacks you and they hit you, your mask will crack. If it cracks enough and breaks, you're screwed. If you shoot someone up close, or something up close, blood will splatter on your mask. You actually have a button for your hand to wipe your mask off. Because if you let this stuff build up, it prevents you from seeing properly. And, of course, you can't see your targets, you can't see where you're going, and that, of course, reduces your aim. The game itself it's just, they took that realism and they made it a part of the game. You panic. Even when you're alone and you don't know what's going to come around that corner, you're not panicking because you don't know what's going to come around that corner. You're panicking because you've only got about 1.5 minutes worth of air left, and you've got to find another gas mask.
Right.
All right? You're still using ammo as currency, and you're still having that sense of entombment. Now, what I mean by entombment is you feel like you're enclosed all around.
Right.
You never feel safe. You never really feel safe. And I think that taking a first-person shooter and implementing all of these elements into it, the survival horror elements, making you think your next move. Do I want to go down this tunnel right now, or do I want to backtrack and pick up that mask that I didn't pick up before because I didn't have enough room in my inventory and I didn't want to drop whatever? I'm not saying that's exactly what's going on in the game. I'm just giving you examples. This is going to implement in a very, very intriguing way when it comes to playing Metro Last Light. And I'm very excited about it. It's going to be released in early 2013.
Like one item could save your life, like literally.
Basically, yeah. I mean, think about it. You may have 5-6 minutes of air left, but you took that last hit to the face, and now your lenses are cracked. They're about to pop, which means that radioactive air is going to get in.
It's making you prioritize what you need to do.
Yeah, and you need to prioritize living, obviously.
Right.
Your guns are all makeshift. Of course, you'll find some weapons that were made prior to the nuclear fallout, prior to the post-apocalyptic world that you're living in now. But a lot of the guns that you're going to pick up are going to be guns that are basically taken by underground engineers and thrown together to work well enough to get the job done. But they're not going to be pretty. The Bastard makes a return. The Bastard was a very popular gun in Metro 2033. It's making its return in Metro Last Light. And I think that my biggest thing about it, other than just the realism and the story, of course, is the game looks beautiful. The environments are dark and they're gloomy, and as I put in the article, don't let the gloom and doom deter you from playing. Because it's amazing how you'll be underground and you'll go topside. You're walking through these ruins and they're gray and they're black and they're run down and they're grimy and they're dirty. And you'll come into a clearing in that area or in the wall of the tunnel you're in, and you'll look over the environment, which is Russia. You're in Russia, and you'll look over the environment and it's just you've got this vegetation starting to grow out. And you've got the sun coming up and this acid rain falling down. And in this really dark and gothic kind of way, it's absolutely beautiful.
You're gay.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I would be offended, but considering I see nothing wrong with being gay,
Was it one?
I'm not.
No, I'm just joking.
That's our number 4 pick from E3 2012.
No, and I want to also say that, it sucks that numbers speak when it comes to video games, but I don't know how well this game sold.
It sold well enough to constitute a sequel, but not well enough to be mainstream. It's an underground game. If you can go pick up Metro 2033 right now to prep you for it, go do so. Really good
and it's
game.
games like that need to be pushed.
It's kind of like the Saboteur. It was a really underrated game.
Yeah,
The
stuff like
Saboteur
that, like-
Studio actually closed down.
Man.
See, and that's the thing is people are just so they call themselves gamers, and this is one of the other problems that we have in our industry or in the industry is we call ourselves gamers, but you're not picking up other titles aside from the Halo and the Call of Duty and all this and all that. You're not taking the time to invest or look at other titles as well. Because I know for a fact that with everything that you just said about Metro, people would have fun with that game. But the fact that it's not a Call of Duty, then people don't pick it up.
Well, our number 3 pick from E3 2012 this year is probably one that most people wouldn't even put on their top 5.
What are we talking
So,
about?
Except for me.
Except for Moonlight, and going back after Moonlight mentioned it, I think that LucasArts may have struck gold with Star Wars 1313.
Absolutely.
Thank God they finally are going to make a mature-rated Star Wars game for the people that
And one
don't
that looks
like
very
Lego.
phenomenal.
And one where you're not using the Force.
Yeah, you were a bounty hunter.
A bounty hunter, man. Now, when I
I was doing it in my
a few
BD
weeks ago,
kind of,
I just like the
voice.
helmet.
yeah, a few weeks ago when they had, when information had leaked, and I guess I'll trail off for literally 30 seconds and then digress. That's the problem nowadays. And Vicious, you and I were talking about this earlier. We were talking about this the other day. There's no surprises at E3 anymore. Everything leaks before the event. So you pretty much know what's going to happen at E3 before it happens, which is sad because, years ago I remember grown-ass men crying in the audience when they had introduced a new Zelda game. Now, you don't get that type of reaction anymore, even though I would completely and utterly taunt you for life for doing so. I would still sit here and say, man, that guy's a gamer and I love it. You don't get reactions like that anymore because, everything, again, leaks online before it actually happens. So, I just want to throw that out there and say that sucks. But anyway, Star Wars 1313, information leaked about it a few weeks ago. LucasArts, of course, working with bounty hunters now instead of Jedi. And when I had first heard about this, am I the only one that crossed my fingers and hoped that you would be playing as Boba Fett?
Sort of, kind of, yeah. I can see that.
Well,
would
sort
like
of,
to be-
kind of, yeah. I'm the only one that was crossing my fingers,
I
or
wanted to do
No,
I
Star
would
Wars
like to create my own
universe.
bounty hunter because you see different types of Jedi, you see different types of Sith, but you don't really get to see different types of bounty hunters.
Not all the time, no.
Yes,
No.
aside
They
from Boba
there-
Fett
there
and
was
Jango
more-
Fett, you really don't
There
see.
was more in Empire Strikes Back.
Boba Fett, Jango Fett. You had Bosk.
Yeah.
Dingar.
And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And what was the robot's name?
Oh, IG-88.
IG-88, dude, that's awesome. I used to know that, and then I grew up.
And there was a bunch
But yeah,
I would say something, but since Moonlight has a hard time bleeping it out, I'm pretty sure he would just miss it completely.
it's all around the lines of fuck you.
Something like that, but it includes some other vulgarities and
No,
probably
I-
something
no.
better completely.
Honestly, saying that I grew up isn't a bad thing. It just means that I'm too old to remember, and my memory sucks now. Trust me, I wish I would have remembered that.
Apparently no one read Tales from Jabba's Palace.
I did. I still own it. That's how I knew about Boba escaping the Sarlacc and coming
Yes.
back every day or every year on the day he escaped,
And bombing
turning
it,
the slave
yeah.
one around
Cool.
and putting his thrusters up so that he could burn it on the way out. That's how I learned about the Ranker's Keeper and how he actually raised the Ranker from him. I've read Jabba's Palace.
Good deal. I'm glad
Thank
someone
you.
else has.
See? Give me my geek credits back.
Look,
Give me my geek points back.
I would,
There you go.
but I can't read. So
Have you seen the Book of the Sith?
That's because
The
you're
way
too
it's
busy
packaged
playing the
and
Wonder
everything?
Book.
I need to show you that. It's freaking
the
awesome.
Wonder Book's not out.
It's because Vicious needs the Wonder Book to read for him. Don't worry,
Anyway.
Vicious, I will give you a free copy of my game.
Star Wars
Wars
1313. Basically, on the planet of Coruscant, and if you're not a fan of Star Wars, you won't know what Coruscant is. Coruscant is the government hub of the universe. That is the planet where all shady dealings, political and non-political, go down. It is like the Washington, D.C. of the Star Wars universe.
Are you
Cor-
gonna get a shot by saying that?
Huh?
You're gonna get a shot by saying that.
By who? Obama?
The
No.
DC sniper.
The DC sniper.
Ooh, that's awesome. I'll be in, like, the newspapers.
You're
Yeah.
hiding behind gas
Dead.
tanks.
I would hide behind... Why would you hide behind a gas tank when someone's shooting at you?
Because you have
Because you're
not
filling the
played
gas
video
tank
games.
up, and you're scared of someone shooting you in the face.
Anyway, Coruscant is basically a planet that is a city. It's a giant city on a planet. There's no vegetation. There's no level. There's no ground. It literally just goes down and down and down and down. I'm sure there's eventually a ground, or else you wouldn't be able to build the damn thing. But, you get the point. So level 1313 is just that. It's the 1300th and, what is it? The 1313th floor of Coruscant. And that's basically where all of your shady underground neo-mafia, alien hits go down. That's where all the underworld is
Illegal
hubbed.
aliens.
And really? Really? You want to say that in Spanish?
Illegal alienos.
And basically, you play a bounty hunter who obviously is looking for a bounty, which pirates would call booty.
Booty, booty.
Booty, 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 rocking everywhere.
The game is absolutely beautiful. It just looked at. Did you see the facial expressions?
Yeah, that's what I was noticing.
I don't mean the ones that we made when you started singing. I mean in Star Wars 1313, in the gameplay demo and in the trailer.
Lighting effects, the sparks, the deaths.
Are we sure that Unreal Engine 4 didn't leak out and LucasArts was just like, hey, wait a minute, Epic, we're going to use this?
LucasArts probably made their own like Lucas Engine 1000.
The Lucas engine.
They're gonna call it the Skywalker engine.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
No, they're kind of.
That or the THX engine.
Yeah, well, either way, we're gonna keep our eyes on Star Wars 13. So, okay,
C-3PO engine.
the C-3PO,
Yeah.
the R2-D2 engine.
Yeah, R3D3.
Okay, we're moving on.
Yeah, please.
You obviously have run out of Star Wars puns.
How about I pun you in the face?
Wait a
How's it
minute,
even
no,
a pun?
that's not funny at all.
No, anyways,
Alright,
let's go.
Vicious, stop taking Jabba's at Vega over here.
I don't know.
No
if that means,
kidding.
but I'm gonna laugh at it like I do.
Oh, you said Jabba.
Yeah, instead of saying jabs at Vega, he said taking jabs at Vega.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we are having a pun-rific time tonight.
That was clever. Moonlight missed it.
Yeah, this is a pun-awesome podcast.
Our
Punilation.
Puncast. get it?
Punilation. Yeah. Okay, so our number 2 pick, and I guess our top 2 picks, one's going to be a surprise and one is not going to be a surprise. I think our number 2 pick is going to draw a lot of heat and to draw a lot of praise because I think that our number 2 pick is probably the most controversial game over the last year, and that's Ninja Theory's take on Devil May Cry.
Oh my.
Let me tell you something, and I put it specifically almost to the word this way on the website. What website is that? WinLostGaming.com, is that it?
Yeah, WhenLostGaming.com.
If you
If
watched the E3 trailer for Devil May Cry, or you watched the gameplay trailer, and you still have doubts about Ninja Theory's take on this game, you have no soul. Let me tell you something. I was hooked the moment Dante walked up to the door of the club, and the bouncer looked at him and said, "You're not on the list." Dante whooped his ass, picked up the list, and wrote "fuck you" on it, and said, "I am now." And then he walks in.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Capcom is actually authorizing this shit?
The way they're making Dante, and now whenever he powers up, because he has black hair and he has that black cloak or jacket, whatever the fuck he's wearing.
The coat, yeah.
Now whenever you power up, that's whenever his hair turns white and his cloak starts going.
His coat turns red, yeah.
So basically, he goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah, he goes
Pretty
super.
much,
He goes,
in a way. In a way,
he goes Super
Super
Demon.
Saiyan.
Well, okay, the way that they did it is this, okay? You have different gameplay elements now. In Devil May Cry, you had the sword, you had Ebony and Ivory, and you were good. In the new Devil May Cry, in Ninja Theory's reboot, basically what happens is you have an angel form and you have a demon form. When you take your angel form, you gain the power of a scythe. Which is kind of backwards when you think about it, because I always thought that. But anyway, when you take the demon form, you use this big-ass brood battle axe. All right?
Yeah, that could work.
Each different form has different effects on enemies. Some enemies are going to be strong to angel attacks and weak to demon, and vice versa. Some to demon and non-angel. And that's how they're implementing and changing up gameplay. The gameplay, they're touting to be the fastest gameplay this generation has seen in a game. And after watching the videos, after watching the trailers and the gameplay footage, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I think that Dante is a complete smartass, and rumors are going around. They didn't really reveal much about the story, but we don't really talk much about rumors. But since we're trying to lay a lot of heads down at ease towards the game, they're saying now that the Dante in the Devil May Cry reboot, the Dante in the Devil May Cry reboot is supposed to be the son of the Dante from the original Devil May Cry. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's one particular scene in the trailer when the guy that runs a nightclub looks at that Dante and says, "You're just like your father," or whatever. I don't know. But the bottom line is this, I was a fan of the first Devil May Cry. I hated the second Devil May Cry. I liked the third one to an extent, but I'm not going to lie. The fact that you couldn't change the difficulty, I don't mind going through a game on normal and then trying to play through it on a hardcore setting, but automatically having to play through it on a hardcore setting bothers me. The fourth Devil May Cry, I think, was a little lackluster because Nero was horrible. So the fact that
Nero was horrible.
So, you want to sit here and you want to say that Devil May Cry is the greatest thing to happen to action games since whenever. Okay, that's good. Do that, because let's not try to deny what the series has done for the genre and for gaming. Devil May Cry was a great series, but the series needed a reboot. it was becoming stale. When they introduced Virgil and they introduced Nero and they started introducing all these characters that had the potential to take Dante's place, which but Nero ended up doing in the first place. Anyway, that's when it just started getting stale. That's kind of like when you're taking, we had the same thing with Metal Gear when Raiden took Snake's place in Part 2, and of course now people are saying the same thing about Revengeance. Devil May Cry needed a reboot. And us as gamers need to stop being so spoiled and sit back and look at the effort that Ninja Theory is putting into this game and realizing they're taking Dante in a more mature direction, they're taking him in a more specific direction, but they're keeping those traits that made Devil May Cry what it is. And that's gameplay, fast, furious action, and of course, demons.
Keeping it stylish.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because I was going all corny with it, and then you went all like gamer with it. That was pretty badass.
Yep.
I think they're taking it in the best direction possible. I'm excited for this game. I think I'm more excited than probably
Then
like
maybe our number one pick?
No, I think I'm more excited than a Girl Scout that just sold a shitload of cookies.
What does a Girl Scout get when she sells a bunch of cookies?
A
Isn't it
medal.
just
Brownie
like
points.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah.
You are deliciously puntastic tonight.
You're deliciously delicious.
Delicious.
Which is the opposite of viciously vicious.
Yeah, so you're gay.
Which is the opposite of straightalish straight. Why do you got to do the gay stuff?
That wasn't me. That was VD.
VD, you're in
My name
timeout.
is VD.
You're in timeout.
Come on.
Get in the corner.
All right, and
Nobody puts VD in corner.
No, we put it in quarantine.
Give it penicillin.
Yeah,
That's what we
we
do.
put it in latex. That's what we do. I guess that leads us to our number one pick, which is really no surprise.
Oh yeah.
If anybody thought that Halo 4 was not going to make the number one pick of E3 2012, then you are obviously drunk and high, or not drunk and high.
Or dumb.
Or dumb.
I mean,
Did I cover every aspect?
Yeah.
I was
Just
one of the
about,
biggest
yeah.
doubters probably in our group about this game, and it completely changed my mind.
I think everybody
over.
at a certain point in time when they found out that Bungie was leaving Microsoft, they were going to the devil reincarnate, which is Activision, and of course 343 was taking over the reins for Halo. Everybody was worried. I was worried as a Halo fan. You were worried as a Halo fan. A lot of Halo fans were kind of worried. Twice, yeah. Oh, you said twas, sorry.
Twice.
I thought you said twice, but you said twas. That's that Laotian accent kicking in,
Yep.
throwing me off. After watching gobs and gobs and gobs of footage that had taken place at E3, Halo 4 is going to be absolutely amazing. I think that the title is going to be great. I think that the any changes that 343 made to the core mechanics of the game are just for the better.
Beneficial.
When Master Chief is walking through the foliage and he picks up the Forerunner weapon, and it literally floats together from pieces to make one solid assault rifle, and he just starts. I literally almost geeked out all over the computer. I did. No, you think that's something small and minute, but everything from the sound effects.
That's what she said.
Everything from the sound effects to the way that the gun looked to the way that everything came together, it was great. The way that they had shown Cortana flipping out at the end, about how AIs degenerate after 7 years, and she's on her 8th year, and all of a sudden she's flipping out all like freaking, what's the term I'm looking for? She was like...
Flipping out?
Flipping out! I mean, it was amazing. And again, whenever you have Halo appear, other than ODST, of course, but whenever you have a Halo title appear at E3 or anything that's supposed to be a popular, mainstream stage or audience, it's going to be something huge. And I really sat here and told myself when I watched Microsoft's press conference that first 10 minutes of their press conference was the best 10 minutes of E3. They had the worst press conference, but they had the best opening with Halo 4.
Oh, yeah.
VD, you want to go ahead and touch up on some of the other things that were in there as far as multiplayer?
Yeah, their War Games looks good. Their Spartan Ops looks really good. It doesn't look like it's just like a Firefight clone or just a Challenge of the Week. It looks like it's fully fleshed out episodic chapters that you're going to get to play with 4 of your buddies also. Every week they're going to have a new chapter about it, and it's going to add to the story, and that looks awesome. War Games, the different multiplayers, the different armors. The armor customization was awesome.
Not to mention it ties into the weekly little movie release.
Oh, the live action show too. Also,
ties in, so you're actually like playing as part of that whole group there.
Yeah, and they're the multiplayer with no Bloom. Thank God. Thank you so much. The shooting mechanics and going around seeing the assassinations and the actual the levels. It just I can't wait. I cannot wait.
So that's our top 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, we've got some honorable mentions. You know, we've got Beyond, as we had mentioned earlier, for the PS3. We've got The Last of Us, which is also a PS3 exclusive from Naughty Dog, which looks absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
Another post-apocalyptic game, survival horror game, one that's supposed to integrate basic emotion in addition to, you know, what exactly is expected as far as a survival horror game, which is basically just living through it and trying to see what happens next. Other honorable mentions from this year's E3 are Tomb Raider, the reboot. The reason we didn't tout that on our top 5 is because we've been talking a lot about it over the last few months. There really was no surprise as far as Tomb Raider, other than just the addition of footage that Square Enix and Eidos had shown us.
Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation.
Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation for the Vita.
The first
looks
female
really good.
assassin looks awesome.
She does. Dead Space 3, they're introducing multiplayer to the Dead Space universe. It's taking place on, I don't remember the name of the planet, but covered in snow, which is really a different a venue for Dead Space. Normally it takes place in dark you know,
tunnels,
constrained
corners,
areas.
yeah.
And they're taking it into a wide open space. Now, we thought with Resident Evil 5 that was gonna fail when they did the same thing there. They introduced it in daylight as opposed to night, outdoors instead of indoors, and actually worked out really well. And my favorite runner-up out of everything, only because I'm easy to please, Persona 4 Arena. They showed a lot more about that. They showed us how you have your 4-button layout, 2 for your Persona character and 2 for your actual character. Of course, you can start combos with your actual character's buttons, and then you can have your Persona jump in mid-combo. You also have it to whereas your Persona can literally get worked down, and you won't be able to call your Persona in if he loses or she loses too much life or health until she regenerates a little bit. So you have to actually take some strategy when using your Persona in the game. 2D Fighter, releasing by Atlas, Arc System Works developing. There were a lot of big games at E3. There were a lot of huge announcements at E3. It was a really good E3. 2012 is, you know, what's left of it is going to be a really good year for gaming. The beginning of 2013 is going to see a lot of new releases with Beyond, Last of Us, with Devil May Cry, Metro, Lost Light, Ni no Kami, Wrath of the White Witch. A lot of games coming out at the beginning of next year that I'm really, I think that actually the first 3-4 months of 2013 are going to be just as big as the holiday months are for 2012.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you have what, really, 2012, you've got Halo 4, you've got, oh, and did anybody notice we didn't mention anything about Black Ops 2?
Are you
What game?
serious?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for all you guys who think that we're maybe not real gamers or anything, yeah, you know what? Black Ops 2, it's overhyped and it's overrated, so y'all have fun with that.
They actually already have a Black Ops 2. It's called Modern Warfare 3, I believe.
I believe that's what it is, yeah. And then they have a Modern Warfare 4 as well. It's called Black Ops 2, supposed to be coming out later this year, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Stay
so...
tuned for the next edition of Call of Duty, the Black Warfare.
Yeah, rumors are out that there's another Warfare even before Black Ops 2 comes
I'm
out.
not even worried about it. You know what? There's nothing special coming out of Call of Duty at this point. There's nothing they can do that's going to reinvigorate this series because they've just run it to the ground.
I think it's
so.
going to go down tunnel just like Tony Hawk and just like...
Because they try and shove it in. I mean, it worked for the first 3 or 4 years.
They're still doing the season pass for Modern Warfare 3. They're still not done with that yet. And they're still trying to push Black Ops.
They just need to quit. They need to give it time to flesh out. And
we can talk about it all night.
Yeah.
Luigi's Mansion 2 for the 3DS. I'm really hyped about that. I love the first Luigi's Mansion. You're looking at me like that. Like, I think that's really cool that they brought Luigi's Mansion
No, I
back.
think it would have been better for the Wii U.
I was one of the few that actually enjoyed Luigi's.
I think so too, but they made the decision to go with the 3DS. I don't doubt that decision. The 3DS, it needs to have that solid library like the DS did and like all the Game Boys did.
3DS does have a solid library.
But Nintendo needs to keep up with that library. It
does. 3DS is a high-selling little handheld.
Nintendo always has the highest selling handheld.
Yeah.
Even the PSP. Think about it. The PSP was 10 times better than the DS. But the DS just had better software. It had better library. Oh, well, that just depends. Because the PS... Or the what?
Nothing.
Okay. The PSP had a lot of JRPGs, and me as a JRPG fan, I love JRPGs. But that's a niche demographic right there. So, again, Darksiders 2. A lot of gameplay footage on that. Game looks absolutely beautiful. Again, there were a lot of things to talk about from E3 this week. We can't fit it all into, one small little podcast. We just wanted to go ahead and throw in our opinions on what stuck out to us the most. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you guys are just as psyched for the rest of the year as we are as gamers. You're just as psyched about 2013 as we are. And we want to go ahead and just give you a couple reminders before we close this out. We've got Carpe Noctem Remix June 15th. That's next week, yeah, or this week if you're listening to this on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's this Friday coming up, 9 p.m. Extreme Play, Carolina Mall. We're going to have Halo Reach playable in tournament play, Street Fighter 4 version 2012, as well as Tekken 6. We're also going to have what we were calling our Retro Corner, but we actually realized that it's probably best to change the name simply because we like another name better, and it was already taken. So we're going to go ahead and go with Win-Loss Retro. Win-Loss Retro will be featured at Carpe Nocta Remix for the first time ever. Show up, and we're going to have them there. I mean, you can pick up anything from your previous generation consoles that you might want. We're going to have Nintendos, Super Nintendos, Sega Saturns, games, as far as software goes. We want you to come and we want you to get your retro fix. Know your roots. Remember your history, because gaming came from somewhere, and it sure as hell wasn't Microsoft or Sony.
True.
So, let's see. Are there any other announcements? We have IGE, Interactive Gaming Expo, September 29th, Kannapolis Village Park, North Carolina. This is going to be the biggest outdoor video game event North Carolina has ever seen. We want you guys to know that. We're going to be partnering up and sponsoring up with, of all people, GameStop. Some people are going to go, boo, we hate GameStop. We're going to look at you. We're going to say, yeah, well, you know what? They're actually doing something positive right about now. GameStop and us here at Win-Loss Gaming are going to go ahead and we're going to provide you with one of the biggest experiences that you can have as far as gaming goes. The quintessential outdoor gaming experience. We're going to have tournament play all day. We're going to have our Digital Coliseum. We're going to have Win-Loss Retro. And we're going to have the IGE Kids section. So you can bring your kids out and they can jump on whatever they want, from Smash Brothers to Mario Kart. Digital Coliseum is going to feature your prominent brawlers, Street Fighter, Tekken. We're going to have King of Fighters. We're going to have Persona 4 Arena. We're going to have WWE 12. Of course, Retro, WLG, Win-Loss Retro. I got so tongue-tied on that. I was doing so well, too. Win-Loss Retro is going to feature your retro titles for speed runs. We're going to have Pac-Man. We're going to have Super Mario Brothers and anything else retro that we can get our hands on. GameStop's going to be there. Starbucks is going to be there.
Yeah.
CC's Pizza is going to be there. We got a lot going on, so hit up the website, winlossgaming.com. We love doing this for you guys. We do it for you, we do it for the games, and we do it for the pleasure out of it. So, thanks for listening.
Cue the outro.
But fuck it, we're done.